Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Welcome to the Shotgun Thoughts broadcast on this auspicious day of conversive delights. It's gotten to a point now where people are just not going to sit around and let the future be decided by these elites and these globalists who are trying to stifle humanity. And it's like the pens of the sheep corral are opened. There's been a massive department from the herd by a lot of people, and it's like ever since COVID broke out, it's almost like they're trying to stifle the age of information, and they're really trying to get a grip on it because they seemingly did not intend for what was going to happen with the internet and just how much information and people's access to information would increase dramatically across the world within 10 years, just the exponential progress in that regard. And it's like COVID, among a lot of other things, were a huge way for them to implement some new guardrails in the sheep pen, because there will be breakouts, and there is the breakout. There's a huge divergence of humanity that sees what's on the other side now, that there is salvation in us continuing on the path that we have. We may not be perfect, and we may make a lot of mistakes as human beings, but the progress we have seen within the last 200 years, ever since America's inception, as unfortunate as it is to say for human history that we know, it took America to bring us to a point where now people do not want to go back, and we are not going to go back. And this is really the apex that we're at right now. We're like at the edge of a cliff, and some of us are not even there. Some of us have seen this coming, and we're out of it. Unfortunately, I am not. I am dead in the crosshairs of any fallout that were to happen from this. But I have seen this coming for a long time. I've been saying this since Obama was getting into office, and I was in 10th grade of high school. I was telling my friends that this is the Antichrist, and this is probably the start of it, and it absolutely was. This is all connected, and it took the next successor to really get things going. Of course, Big B didn't want to get the blame for any of that. He was too charming, and he probably didn't want his reputation to go down in flames, at least not immediately. But it seems like there will be some recourse, at least in the people's eyes of this country. We do want recourse. We want accountability, and we do not want this to go backwards from here, because what they have planned and what's going on with the United Nations and the WEF and the one world order, it's out of control at this point, and they're really trying to crank down. You got this pride stuff really like just disguising itself. You got Satanism and communism and this so destructive to society, this ideology, but it's being disguised as equity and inclusion, and it's that principle. I forget what it's called, but it's where you've got like one defense that's really easy and strong to make, like inclusion, but then there's a second agenda going on here. And this has been going on for a very long time. It happens with the words that they pick to use in their political discussions. You've got global warming, and then all of a sudden, all the affixes and the prefixes and the things you think of with global warming, they're all now attached to climate change, which is just something that is a fact and cannot be denied. And it's everything that they proclaim global warming is, but it's not. The word has been hijacked. climate change is not equivalent to global warming, especially man-made global warming. It's just the atmosphere contributes 0.03. The carbon dioxide contributes to 0.03 of the atmosphere, and how much of that comes from human beings is still up for debate. Now, to say that we have no impact on the environment, it's just ignorant. But again, we're going back to how every time you say something, it's like you need to almost refute the things that they proclaim you believe. It's like, you can't even have an idea nowadays. And if you do, it can't be one that's against the agenda, because immediately by default you're basically wrong for taking a stance or a side that they don't agree with. And to be honest, they don't agree with anything. They disagree with themselves. Forget about it. When you see the town meetings that they have, if you could call it that, where they bureaucratically try to establish their forget it, they can't even get a word out sense-wise. Like, that they have to proclaim their gender, and how many exceptions need to be made, and that they weren't talked to correctly. Forget about it. You can't even get through a simple conversation with these people, let alone any actual type of societal change that'll bring about anything in a good direction, because everything's just hijacked by chaos. There's so much disorganization and people clambering for any scraps on that side, because it's like that there's a mad dash at this point for these people to like, they see it as an opportunity. Corruption, evil, any type of anarchy is just, it's out of control right now, and it's ripe. Commit crime, kill people, break into people's houses. Forget about it. It's no problem. They just indicted the guy today in Manhattan that the chokehold, the Marine that chokeholded the guy who was attacking people in the subway. They want to indict the Marine. Meanwhile, that guy, well, actually, yeah, he's no longer with us, but it's just crazy, man. Everything's backwards. If you're the good guy, you're the bad guy. If you're the bad guy, you're the good guy. That they get all the permissions, they get extra benefits and more rights than you do. It's insane, man. It's insane. They want to take your fucking guns away and not allow you to have that. Meanwhile, these criminals, they don't give a shit. It's nuts. They're living in their mansions, getting rich, doing better and better, while all of us, the fucking world is burning right now. And I'm in America, man. I can't imagine. I know shit is crazy everywhere else. Forget about it. We're blessed in this country, and it's just, we really need to do something about it now, because there's not going to be much left to fight for if we just keep standing here letting them pick us apart right now. And before it comes down to it, might be fighting one another, because shit's just too fucking desperate over here, and then that's when they're really gonna have their way, when they can get the fucking martial law and just the civilian militia and these polices armed to the teeth, fucking breaking into people's houses and whatever else, confiscating weapons, and oh my god, just fucking forget about it, because Americans are not gonna stand for it, man. So it's like, we're waiting patiently for this shit to be settled the legal way, but it's like, how much stuff needs to come out? You got so much shit that's coming out in the news, and it's like, I mean, not even the news, sorry, but like information on the internet, Twitter now, these are source materials more than half the time. Like, Biden, the fucking crime family that they got going on, and just how Hunter and the Obama administration and how he as vice president was linked to so many things with Russia. And not only that, but all the lies they were telling is not only found to be lies, but just straight up quite the opposite of what they were saying. So it's like, you got them doing the Hillary Clinton and the fucking Nancy Pelosi wrap up smear with everything. They write journals and articles that fucking forget about it when it comes to the science that's being written and shit, and they're just pushing this stuff along. Like, it doesn't matter, this shit doesn't need to be right. They're just pushing this stuff along because it goes, it passes the what is it, the ECG, the equity, inclusion, and fucking general insanity fucking quota they got. It's insane, man. And then, they're got the fucking pride flag. Like, I love gay people. I want people to be free and express themselves, and those people want to do the same as well. But man, why does this stuff need to be political and everything, and how people don't separate these things and realize that it's being hijacked? I mean, yo, look at this pride flag at this point. This thing looks like a demonic symbol. I mean, if you look into the meaning of 666 and Satanism and how it's represented, that pride flag is the exact, well, obviously it does have representation in the gay pride family, but when you look at some of the symbolisms in Satanism, it's there. And obviously, if it's almost like the KKK with Trump, if he wanted to disavow himself, why would he not right the wrongs and say those things and this and that? So, the same comes to that. Why are they standing behind this? And it's almost good in a way. Well, that's why people need to see this. We need to start calling it out, because there are plenty of people surrounding you. I'm in New York City, but I can guarantee you that half the people, maybe depending on where I am, that might be a little more dangerous, but for the most part, there are always people who have agreed with the stances I've taken. And no matter where you are, you're not gonna know of anybody who might be with you if you're not willing to, like, kind of poke your head out a little bit and take a risk in that sense, you know. But good God, at this point, I really do. I pray for this country. I really hope everything can turn out without, like, massive amounts of violence and chaos, because this is already getting bad. And that's why we need to take a hard stand now. And it's just like, why is nobody on the right organizing this stuff? We need somebody to organize this and put it together. There are plenty of legal ways where we can have community groups. They can fucking watch us, the FBI, the CIA. Let's just discuss this shit in open, plain terms. Why is, like, when they put all those people away January 6th, why did none of the actual, conservatives, the people who stand for the people, whatever they might be, it doesn't matter at this point. The people who are for the people, Trump, he claims to be that. A lot of people claim to be that. DeSantis, all this shit, but they got a lot of money and they didn't help anybody out. Maybe a few select individuals, but they didn't come out and reassure everybody that got arrested like George Soros did when all the protesters went out burning fucking down cities and shit. He told them, don't worry about it, we're gonna bail you out. Why do none of the people on the right do that shit? Why does nobody come out and say, like, we got your back, no problem? I'm sorry, I don't want to blow anybody's ears out or anything, but there's gonna be a change of audio. And yeah, let's just get prepared for that. So I just, it's coming to a head right now. It's like we've been backed to the edge of a cliff. We're like a herd of animals that have been backed to the edge of a cliff, and it's like there's some of us that have broken off and we've gone the way of not falling to our demise, but it's like the rest of us are getting choked up here, and we're at the point where shit, something has to give, and it's not going to be us slipping off the back of this cliff right now. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of people who feel like that, and I mean, we're trying not to resort to desperate or any type of controversial means, as we have seen with J6 and everything. You know, it's just, it's not fair. And this shit happened to Occupy Wall Street, which a lot of people forget. A lot of people forget that too, that Occupy Wall Street had the same thing happen with that. You had the liberals and the Democrats organizing and you know, being in the park over there. And you know, as things started to really mount and actually create some momentum, they fucking did the same thing, man. They disrupted that. They put people in there to really antagonize and create the situation that the cops could shut it down, and they would be painted as, you know, violent and rioters. And look at the shit that happened during all of these riots and stuff, where quite the opposite. You got people burning down cities that are said that they're just peacefully protesting with Molotovs in their hands. But as well, a lot of these things, that's why the misinformation and shit like that is crazy. You don't know what to think now, because everything is spun in every which way. Depending on who is telling you that information, almost everything is being spun to some effect, where you know they're trying to paint their picture a little clearer for themselves and their constituents and everything. So it's just it's out of control now, where you know we've got to call this stuff out. We can't keep letting people that have no basis in you can count the amount of subjects that these people do not have grounding in. So we just have to stop giving them the benefit of a doubt, and you know, like, making their arguments for them. At this point, this is the only reason why this has gotten as far as it has. Like, we give them too much space to run around and be fucking children, and you know, we just don't come in and put an end to this stuff. It's like, what are you gonna do at this point? You really gotta again look to the local shit, man. We gotta get these people out of here. You gotta show up at fucking board meetings and parent teacher conferences, and you know, support your kids in school. You gotta do every little thing that you can that is you know, possible for us to make a change, because you don't want it to have to come to something, because they want it to. They want us to get violent. They want us to get crazy. And unless we can do it in just a decisive, overwhelming fashion, this shit is gonna it's gonna be a fucking headache, man. It's gonna be a headache. It really is. So, you know, and the fact that if somebody gets in that is opposed to the current ideology going on right now, it's obvious that they don't want that happening. They are very intent at this point to make sure that that does not happen. You know, they're talking about pretty much something going wrong. They're saying cyber attacks, and that there's you know, they're giving out those satellite phones to the senators and shit. So, you know, we're due for that shit. It's surprising that we haven't had like a massive EMP or some type of electronics blackout, you know, due to just a cyber attack or fucking bullshit with the government, them doing stuff like this, planning that. And yeah, I just look at every aspect, and right now there's just so much going on. You even got a lot of this stuff potentially coming to a head, you know, but it's like nothing ever happens with this shit. You know, there's so many things where it's just like nobody's ever held accountable. Nothing really seems to happen with this stuff. And it's like things just keep getting progressively mildly worse, and it depends where you are in the states, really, in the world. If you're in the states still, by 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 comparison, I mean, you know, it's not to say we have any reason to be less active and proactive at stopping this progression of tragedy upon the entirety of human society. I mean, there's so many countries that are just taking full advantage of this. I mean, Trudeau in Canada, that's out of control what this guy is doing. I mean, he's basically just a Chinese puppet, this guy. He's like licking their boots and everything. I don't know how, but this is why that people like really need to get out, really need to speak up at the very least and be vocal and not let these things slide. Like during COVID, my life changed over the past few years, and it wasn't just because of a diagnosis with multiple sclerosis, but I really took a stand. I suffered a lot during COVID. I did not let this stuff go on. I mean, I have health issues. I've had like a slight asthma, not sure what it is. They really could never pinpoint it, but you know, not only for the medical reason, but you cannot be wearing a mask. You talk to doctors in the hospital, they put that N95 on when they go to do surgery and they take it off afterward. They are not wearing those masks all day. They're not doing physical exercise. They're not doing strenuous activity, lifting and, out in the sun and shit, jogging, whatever it might be. It's just mentally insane, the stuff that they wanted you to go through. And I've always been somebody who was employment challenged to that degree because I've always been a super hard worker. I've been very smart and competent. I've always been a very competent person, and if I don't know something, I speak up about that, and I've always just tried to excel the best I can. And New York City especially, it's just not made for that. We're not like back in those times where, there's a sensei and he's got his apprentices and they will soon one day be better than him. And, that's not happening no more. That's not happening no more. And as a cook, being in the culinary industry and even doing a lot of things on the side, I mean, at this point in my life, I'm 32 years old. I've had probably more than 32 jobs. And I've stuck with some 6 months, a month, a week, a day, some a year. I have not had long term positions at places. And it was all because of growth. I just was never able to grow and move and was never able to be worked with in a way that I felt was agreeable and in a way that I felt respected my values, my principles, and was a really a give and a take. That there's compromise you have to make in life, and you got to bite your tongue, and you got to do a lot of things that you really don't want to have to do in life. But you know, trying to cope with that of constantly giving your all and being the person who's humble, doesn't speak up, doesn't ask for help, but is constantly taken advantage of, and the given extra work, and then the acclaim for that is taken by somebody else, and you're not given your due. And if you speak up or say anything, you're penalized for it, punished, terminated, suspended, laid off, whatever it might be. Especially in New York City, people play the game here. People play the game. They know that legally there's a lot of recourse, and that they're gonna play that game. Instead of firing you, they'll work you down to fucking 6 hours a week until you quit, because it's just, like they end up facing making these ultimatums that pretty much, it's like they force your hand one way or the other. And you just really have to realize, especially in this city and cities in general, there's tons of opportunity. I never let it stop me. When someone tells you no, that is just next opportunity. When one door closes, another one opens. So sometimes you got to see things as a sign and a way. No matter what, failure, success, there's always ways to read into things. But to be honest, failing at something is a much clearer way of learning from your mistakes. And it wasn't often that I failed at what I was doing. And if I did, I was very open about it and tried to learn and take those mistakes into account for the future and not have to ever make them again. But when you're not given your due in a place of work, and it's driving you crazy mentally, and you're grinding yourself to a nub. It's 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 like, you really have to escape that mental prison and think that you can't, you need this and you gotta stick with this shit. I've just never been a person that has that mentality. If worst comes to worst, I'm on my own. I know I got it. I know I got it. I can always pull that out. When I'm backed into a corner, that's where I shine. I do my best work from the corner. So it's just like, some people thrive like that. Everybody has different ways, and it's unfortunate that sometimes that is what really pulls out the best in me. But that's also because I really don't know how to bring that out of myself through you know um through my own means. Like I can have that happen, and there's moments of genius, but and then sparks of just I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. Forgot. But yeah, man, you gotta hold everything together because you know the American people, man, we've built this country, and all the workers, the laborers, all the skin and bones that have been ground away, putting everything in place in this country, the military, the servicemen, the emergency workers, these are the people that, the country stands on their shoulders. And we really cannot take that for granted, because these people who are in power right now, it's not how it used to be, where the people who paved the way and led those people who paved the way were the ones who assumed charge and responsibility and leadership. It's just not that way anymore. We're a very complacent, dulled out society that, only the ones with the most aspiration, ambition are going to pursue those roles of power. And they're the only ones that are going to make it there, because it's a cutthroat environment. That industry, that society of politics is just, it eats you up, man. If you're gonna make it far in that, it's obvious that you got to play a part of that. And you know the further you get, obviously the better you are at that, unless there are some outsiders, and there are the anomalies, but for the most part, that's not the way it is, man. So we gotta just look at our local communities and just try to improve everything that we can, everything around us, because whatever they can touch, these people at the top, they sure are fucking creating waves that are really, really destabilizing the entirety of society. So this is gonna be the end of the podcast here. I appreciate you guys listening. If there's any improvements I can make, anything that might bother you, please let me know. I'm trying to make gradual improvements, things that I notice. I don't have the most time in the world. I could always have some more. I'm sure most of us would say the same. So anyway, we'd like to get some improvements going. So if you have anything to add, that would be great. I appreciate it, good or bad, regardless. Thank you for your time listening here today. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.